it's the clients or the coachees who make coaching work. You see, look, I'm a pretty damn fine coach, but unless there's a commitment and a willingness for the coachee or the client, call them what you will, I'll continue to call them clients for now because usually in the context of consulting, my coachees are considered clients. So from that context, it's the client who makes coaching work. I've only ever in my career had one person who's not really gelled with me in how the coaching has worked or not worked. And again, I'm not going to talk in great detail about that, but instead what I'll do is I'll talk about some of the positive aspects of what makes an ideal coaching client, someone who is ideal, if you like, and somebody that I would look to take on as an ideal coaching client. And firstly, I mean, at the center of all of it, I would say that the most important aspect is that the individual has to want to be coached. Now, there's quite a wide variation of how people perceive the need for coaching. Now, need in itself is an interesting word, isn't it? Because there is a big difference between need and want coaching. So if you need coaching, then usually that's because you've been invited, inverted commas, by your boss or by HR or whoever to go to coaching. And quite often that need is remedial. So there's a remedial coaching contract, if you like, something where you want to improve something that you're not doing as effectively as you could do. Sometimes it could actually be things like anger management. That's quite a popular one. Quite often leaders who are stressed to the max and aren't able to apply themselves in the most effective of fashions quite often might resort to anger or angry outbursts and throwing their toys out the pram. Now, quite often this goes ignored in organizations, and for me that's not a very good way for organizations to behave, to allow what might actually be considered stress on behalf of the leader to go unchallenged, and how they then work that stress out onto other people. That's not very good either. So there's an invitation here from HR or from the boss or whoever to go and get some remedial coaching, in which case the coach is brought into the organization, is asked to remediate and bring the individual forward. But the best place which coaching works is when there's a want, a desire for coaching. And this, in the context of agile leadership coaching, is the number one key critical component, I believe, that makes any leader a great leader and one that is inspiring to coach and to work with, because they see themselves not as someone who's arrived, not as someone who, just because they're a leader, are entitled, but someone who actually feels that, you know what, I can do better, I can do more, I can be more. And quite often it's when they think of the team and how the team will benefit from a more inspired, a more engaged, a more proactive, a more enabling, a more, I hate to use this word, but it's one that comes up quite a lot, a more empowering leader. Someone who really does give the team all the tools they need. Hence, this is why I like to use the word enabling. I always invite my leaders to be enablers rather than empowerers, because there's a curious and dubious little thing that might happen when we start to empower people. Empower implies that power is given and therefore by definition can be taken away. Whereas we just really need to see people, or leaders need to see people in their teams as powerful to start with, so that they don't have to really empower them. They are powerful. What they do is they enable. They enable them to become the best possible team and the best individuals within the team that they can possibly be. And that's a key difference, I feel, between the agile leader and what you might call the more traditional type of leader, where we expect leaders maybe to be charismatic people who drive from the front and beat down all opposition and look at competition and want to be the number one person in the organization. There's a lot of things in here that we could see that where the leaders can be more effective. Now, some leaders might play at change, and these aren't the sort of leaders who are really going to thrive and commit to their coaching. But instead, what I like to look for is those leaders who really truly want coaching. As I've said earlier, it's an important aspect. And that want, that desire, is driven by a further desire to want to learn more. They're like sponges, if you like, that they want to learn more about, well, what do we mean by organizational agility? What do we mean by agile culture? Okay, why is the process important but not the be-all and end-all? How come we keep saying things like it's individuals and interactions over processes and tools, but yet the organization seems to value things the other way around? These are all very intelligent questions. These are all things which, to me, make it a juicy coaching engagement, a juicy coaching relationship when leaders step forward and have that inquiry that really does demonstrate that they are truly agile leaders, because there's a humility about these sort of leaders. There's a desire to want to be better. And it really does come from that place of humility, which says, you know what, I'm not all I can be right now, but I can be even better. And I think that is, for me, the sort of leader that inspires loyalty and brings me to want to bring my best game for them. Whereas in the past, I've worked with some leaders who they turn up to coaching, but they turn up in their heads. They're not turning up in their hearts. And by that, look, there might be a thing where they're sort of going through the motions, as it were. They think through what it is they think they ought to be saying, rather than maybe truly engaging with what the coaching is about from a deeper level, from a heartfelt level. Because what people really want from their leaders in an organization is someone who actually does lead, someone who goes first, someone who puts themselves first above anybody else. And I don't mean that in a selfish sense. They put themselves forward first because, yes, look, I can do that. My team can do that. We can do this. Having that attitude of, look, we'll go over the top first. We won't be hesitant and play the political game that maybe some of our counterparts in the organization will be playing at. Because let's be honest here. When we coach leadership teams, not everyone is in the same place when it comes to coaching. Not everyone, as we say, would want to be coached. Not everyone has the desire to be coached. And that's absolutely fine. And in which case, I don't recommend that we force coaching on people because it just won't land with them. It will end up being quite counter, in fact. And another aspect of this as well that's worthwhile considering is that we'd always like the leader to choose their own coach. Give the leaders a choice of coach rather than here's the coach and that's it. Now, if there is only one coach available for whatever reason, then that's fine. I suspect the leaders would make do. But if they can have a coach that they can build a more meaningful relationship with, then that is a better ingredient, because there's some research has been done which says that, look, 40% of the improvements that will come from the coaching will come from the relationship itself rather than anything else, rather than the types of interventions or whether or not this person has been a CEO in the past, or whatever other reasons people may qualify themselves as being the best type of coach. It's actually the most important thing is the relationship. Relationship is the important thing in helping leaders to move forward. Because if the coach and the leader don't have an effective relationship together, then the coaching isn't going to go very far at all.